Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. Um, we are doing a live discussion about um with Indie Love, that's me, on the future black romance. What is it? I'm drawing an absolute blank just that doggone fast. Lord, let's get it together. Look, can we do a retake real quick? The future of black romance in 2022. And today I have with me authors, bloggers, reviewers, podcasters, the whole nine, five fabulous women. And it is Women's History Month. Am I saying that correctly? So, what better way to start to have this discussion in oh, I lost somebody. We lost KC that fast. She'll be back. To have this discussion this month. So I'm going to start off. If you don't know, I'm Indie Love. I do a yearly event. This year we'll be in New Orleans. And this is going on year 7. Yeah, this year 7. Yay. What was supposed to be a 1-year event is now year 7. I also have Arthur and Monique. She has hit the scene, dropping books left and right. I have followed, she's turned into one of my favorite authors. I also have Miss LaShira Lee. Now, if you don't know Miss LaShira Lee, something is wrong with you. From, am I saying, let me say, Read You Later. Is that saying that correct, Miss Lee?
Yes, Miss Indie Love.
I also have another favorite, Miss Casey Mills. I be trying not to devour her catalog, but I have and she uploading more and more stuff, and I'm going just ham with Miss Mills. So we want to welcome her and Miss Adrienne Gonzalez, podcaster, avid reader, you name it, attorney, if I'm not mistaken, you name it. And then one of my besties, Miss Bailey West. I can't even go into detail about how we have just truly connected, and that is my friend, and I love her to death. She gets me right even when I don't want to hear it. Sometimes I have to get her right. She don't want to hear it. Um, the Lord always puts the right people in your life at the right time, and I
Mm.
truly, truly appreciate her. I appreciate you, ladies, for joining me as we have this conversation. Um, this afternoon. Am I dragging? I feel like I hear an echo. Is that
I
me?
hear it
I
too.
hear
I
an
hear you
echo.
as well.
Okay. Let me put my ear pods in.
No, I think it's gone now. I think it's
Oh,
KC
oh,
having
it's
some
Casey.
Yeah, it's
technical
probably
difficulties.
somebody who
Yes.
shared it with live.
Yeah.
Girl,
Yeah,
it happens. You
it
you
does.
good.
All right, so let's jump right on in. And I'm gonna start off with a post I saw. So give me a second. Let me pull it up. Well, no, let me start off this way. Hello, everyone. Hey, Ayana, Chantress, Velda. Thank you for joining us. Um, okay, Casey says she's switching devices, so she'll be back. All right, Miss Lisa, welcome, welcome, welcome um, to this in-depth conversation. So, I'm gonna start with you, Miss LaShira Lee. Where do you see Black romance going in 2022? We know it has evolved so much, but where do you see us going in 2022?
Girl, I think this is our time. I was on a call. I've been on 2 calls, and I was the only melanated person in the room, and all they were talking about was black romance and
Hmm.
the future of black romance and black manuscripts and black content. And so I think that due to a lot of the movements, Black Lives Matter movement, publishing so white movement that took Twitter by storm in 2021, especially. I think that a lot of people now are looking for African American romance. And we see now that a lot of your major players in the publishing industry now, you have a lot, not a lot more, but I'll say a few more African American executives and editors and acquisition editors. And I think that's also changing the face. And you also have, when you talk about streaming, you talk about different even outside of publishing, you have different people who are now looking for African American, Hispanic, and Latino, Afro Latina content, because we know that we drive the culture. We drive a lot of the quote unquote what we see in popular culture, and so people are looking for that, and and we spend a lot of money. We spend a lot of money. There's been a lot of conversations. Sometimes we don't spend money in our communities, but we spend money. And anytime you spend money, people are looking for that. So I see the future is bright in African American romance. I see a lot of diversity in African American romance. Once upon a time, I always say we were all colored, so to speak. Hoping nobody take offense to that. We had a very regimented routine in what we were authors perhaps were allowed to do and consider African American romance. Now you see that gate wide open, where African American authors are allowed some of those same expanses and experiences to experiment with their writing, and you see readers going along with them. I think it was a misconception, this notion, if you will, that African American readers wouldn't devour certain tropes, certain genres. But we are not a monolithic thinking community. We have very diverse experiences. I read a lot of diverse reads. People probably be surprised of the stuff I read, perhaps not. And so I don't read particularly a certain genre. I'm more heavily laden, I will say, African American romance than anything else. But I do read other things outside of romance genre, and I read various things, especially now when I'm devouring manuscripts. So I think that this is our time, this is our season. I had this conversation with a couple of people this past week, that we need to capitalize on that and don't be afraid to for African American authors to widen your horizons. If you want to do dystopian, boo, do dystopian. If you want to do, look, I'm gonna give some hints out here. If you want to do some thrillers, boo, do thrillers. This is your time, and people are looking for that.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Um, M. Monique, you you being you being a fairly new author which is one of the reasons why I asked you to participate, because
Okay.
you have come in and taken. I mean, I know it's a little overwhelming because we've talked before,
Right.
but how do you feel? Where do you see it going? Do you feel like you came in at the perfect time? You feel like, oh, I should have did this a couple of years ago, which we all know God's timing is God's timing. But
Right.
how do you see it, and where do you see it going, and where do you want to contribute to the process going forward?
So I have had both of those feelings that maybe I should have did this. I wish I would have did this a couple years ago, but also knowing that I'm in the right time, because I feel like whatever voice I want to give, I can put out there. I don't have to be in a box. I don't have to, worry about what I write as much, because people are African American, um, African Americans are looking for more to read. So when you can operate in whatever area, whatever genre you want to step into, um, and people love it or people flock to it, um, I think that's a wonderful thing. So I came in just at the right time, because I already knew coming in I didn't want to stay in the box. I knew I wanted to add certain elements that may not, always, that I've seen before, but all those things that you wanted to add, that you want to add, that may not necessarily always get talked about in books. So I came at the right time. I'm happy. I've read a lot of books over my life. Like, I've read a lot and different genres, and that's kind of how I picked up on what I wanted to do with my own journey as an author. So, I think Black romance is just skyrocketing. I love how authors are um, dealing with family issues, but still keeping that romance side of the equation. I love how it's all these family dynamics, and actually showing that that love that the Black community needs. Just people of color need in these books that we write. And that's what I hope to show, and that's what I love to read. I'm glad that everything is evolving the way it is, because I think it's time for that. I think it's time for us to just do bigger things, go outside the box and just, do what has been done by others, but not necessarily in our community, to help us to grow as authors, readers, bloggers, or whatever you do in the community of reading. It's just a lot that can be done, and I think we're doing that. I think it's going great. I think it's going to get even better.
Awesome. I totally agree with that as well. They in the comments. um I think I'm gonna jump to Adrian as a blogger, podcaster, avid reader. Where do you see us going?
I definitely see the level of savvy just getting higher and higher and higher, right? Because we've got three authors on the line here already who are phenomenal. And let me just take a moment to fangirl, because I've read multiple books from all three of your catalogs. Haven't managed to devour every single catalog, but I'm getting there. I'm making my way. And child, y'all are nasty. Let me just say that. And I mean that with all the love and affection I have in my heart. I love it. And three very different voices, which speaks to there's room at the table for everyone. What I am
Absolutely.
also loving is seeing more authors bringing other services to the table, right? Like they're starting editing services and book covers and boot camps coming together. Bailey, I think you might be working on something with Love Belvin, possibly, right? Coming together, creating a community that is having the conversations about the business, particularly on the independent side, and making sure that these authors that are phenomenally talented are also taken care of and being taken care of on the business side of things, right? And this community coming together and saying, let's make sure that we have the legal where it needs to be, that we have the financial where it needs to be. Let's make sure that the editing is where it needs to be, so on and so forth. I'm really loving that, because there obviously are the horror stories, and some of it is learning trial by error, but seeing that community grow of these Black women authors saying, if you need services in this realm, in this realm, I'm here, I'm available. You don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to learn by falling and failing everything, right? The Bible says a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, while a fool has to make them all on his own.
Well,
So
go ahead
that
and preach, girl.
well, I love that scripture, and it's just I'm enjoying seeing that and the growth of that, because that's important, right? You
Mhm.
all deserve to be to have your talent celebrated and recognized and compensated
Absolutely.
appropriately.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. KC, I'm gonna get to you, Bailey. KC, being and I hope you don't take offense, is one of the most seasoned ones on the panel, because you've been in the business for a while. From when you started to where we are right now, where do you see us going, and where have we grown from then till now?
So I have a unique experience, because when I started in one lane. And although I took that lane and created my own voice for it, it was understood that this is that lane. So I've seen the growth and the transition so July will be 7 years for me. So the growth and transition from then to now. So our voices at a certain point, for the community that I came up in when I started writing, were limited. And we are a fascinating group of people. We are superhumans in a sense, and we have so many layers and so many talents. And it was in a sense that we don't want to read about this or we don't want to read about that. But now that I see the transition happening, we are in all of these different genres, but the voices and the experience are us. And that's such a beautiful thing. And, so I've always heard people say that a story is a story, and if it's good enough, you don't see the color. And that's good in a sense. But for me, when we read these stories, these African American stories, these beautiful Black romances, we want to see us, feel us, and know that we exist in these stories. So we don't want that story to blend in and be viewed as it could be anybody. No, it's us. So that's kind of where I see us going. We are in a time where we can write and weave in our layers and superpowers, more or less, as far as families and experiences and emotions. And because we are a beautiful people and we love and we hurt and we cry and we have all these wonderful things, but now it's coming out in these stories. And like I said, me personally, when I came in and I was in that lane, my brain couldn't process that because I hadn't been boxed into a certain thing. So it worked. But then, like I said, I kind of switched it and found my voice in that lane. But now, who knows? Y'all might see me writing about vampires or werewolves or fairies or whatever it will be. And it's going to be received because there's an audience out there that wants to see us and our beautiful people and our likelihoods in those stories. So that's where I see it going, where there are no more ceilings. We can write anything and it's going to be received and it's going to be beautiful. And there's so much talent within us, in our community, that there's no stopping us. And that's what I see happen. I see us transitioning to a point where when we're ready and as we creep into those different lanes, we are going to dominate because that's just who we are as a people. And we have the ability to do it. And it's going to be received and valued. And they're going to be like, oh, wow, this is great. So that's kind of what I see happening.
Was that an Indie Love exclusive? Casey Mills is bringing us some Black vampire, hot, nasty,
Listen.
romantic, sexy. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I just want to.
You're not the only one. You see Chelsea talking
Yes.
about, I'm here for the Casey paranormal.
I don't know if I can wrap my brain around it. And now here's the thing. That is a very specific genre with all of the different facets of it. And you either get it right or you get it wrong. And if you get it wrong, they're coming for you. So when I feel like I'm ready to take that on and can handle, the backlash or the criticism that might come along with that, because now my story's gonna be bomb. I have all ability and belief in myself. However, there are certain things that come with those genres that you gotta be on point. You gotta have your stuff together. So possibly, we'll see.
Okay. Miss Bailey West, you've been in the business 5 years?
I think 2016. 17,
Okay.
19, 20.
Okay.
6 years. Yeah, almost 6 years. Yeah.
6 years. Okay. And what, from your experience when you first came in till now, where do you see us? What has your experience been, and where do you want to see us going?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that, Indy. So when I first started out in the Black romance genre, I started writing my first book before I really did a lot of research on what to do with it once I was done. But once I started researching what to do with it, once I was finished with it, there was nothing there. Like there were no areas or specialized websites that I could go to say, okay, you Black girl have written a book. Now, what do you do with this? And how do you get it out? I found places that I couldn't necessarily relate to, and especially when you're talking about independently published, because the goal was always, from what I read, was to become traditionally published, right? So independently published authors, that was like a stepping stone, that was like just to get your feet wet. But the ultimate goal was to be a traditionally published author. And that was not my goal. And so I didn't find those resources at all. What I had to do was reach out to other independent authors. I would just slide into people's DMs and ask questions, and putting all of that information together is how I was able to produce my first book. but I didn't know what I was doing, you know. And even still, if you go out and you try to find right now information that consolidates the Black diaspora experience in one place when it comes to writing novels and short stories and things, you won't find it. It's just not there. We have been traditionally led by people who don't really know how to tell our stories. And so a lot of the stories that you see that are Black romances were not Black specific, right? They wrote the story probably with white people in mind and then said, let's go ahead and put these Black people in here just to, you know, spicy it up a little bit, because they know that we'll spend our money on it. So having a place to find all of those things has been my mission in life since I've come into the community, to corral my fellow authors together, because I think that I know that we don't grow in isolation, but we grow in community. So really bringing everybody together, everybody not in every corner doing different things, but if we all come together to produce something, then we can be great. And so we've seen that throughout the history of the African American experience, that when we all put our mind to a thing, then that thing can be great. And so I realized that we've been leaving millions and millions and millions of dollars on the table, right? Because we don't have the representation that we need to get us there. And we've been blessed to see LaShira be put into some of those rooms, but don't be lying. You we proud of you, but we still are underrepresented, right? If she's the only brown girl in the room, then we need other brown people who are saying different things as well, so that we all can be a part. But ultimately, we got to build our own table, and I see that's what we're doing now in our community. It's just building our own table and representing Black romance from where we are, and not waiting on anybody else to represent us.
That is very true. I started reading when I was very young, very, very young. I love books. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to hide some of this. And of course, my very first book that I can remember was Judy Blume, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, you know. And it's funny, as you guys were talking, I was thinking, what if that was a Black little girl's experience? What if that, I mean, it was an experience, but just what if that had been a little Black girl's experience? Now, I don't have no shame in telling I'm 53, so I had to be all of what, 8, 9 years old. So can you imagine our little Black girls now, the books that they have at their disposal, how far we've come from then to now, but all of that was traditionally published. So now as independent, and then this theory that Black folks don't read, Black women don't read, is so far-fetched. I mean, I heard that for years. And even when I decided to do Indie Love, I was told they don't come to events. They don't, Black women, they're not gonna come. You're gonna have to do something phenomenal to get people to come. Well, year one, we found out that wasn't really true, because they came. And by then, independent authors were growing. You had the opportunity. And that was kind of my goal to, yes, there's events for traditionally published authors, but who is doing events for independent authors? And that is where the goal and the drive came from for me. And I've seen, like I said, we're going into year 7, how far we've come from then to now. And I agree with everybody. We're going in such a high direction. There's so much room for everybody to eat at the table, where it hurts my heart when I see the division amongst genres, or I see authors, publishers who are supposed to be for us, our Black publishers who, you know, small house publishers, do their authors dirty. That hurts my heart. And it's like, why can't we just grow and be there for each other and push each other to go to the highest level possible? I I was reading something. It was a post. I'm not going to say who posted it, but she's an author. She says, "I write Black heterosexual romance. My main characters are Black, and so are their friends. If you want to read about people that aren't Black, my books are not for you. If you want to read about people in the same sex relationship, my books are not for you. There are some great authors with great books about people who are not Black and are people who are the same sex relationship. I'm not the one of those authors, and will not apologize for it." And my thought was, why should she have to apologize for that? Like we said, there's room at the table for all genres. I don't necessarily want to read certain genres, but I'm not going to bash an author for writing that genre. One of the things I notice is in our community is social media has made some of us readers, we so bold. We are so bold. I mean, and
Wow.
some of us have a pure heart when we jump in somebody's inbox, and some of us are just malicious. We are so that's the best way I could do it. It says we are so bold. Lashira, what is your take on that particular post? If you know any of the comments that was made in that post and how she felt she had to say that.
Well, I think some people feel like they have to validate themselves in certain situations. Um, I'm just not one of those people. I'm like you. I'll be 53 in April. Girl, I just don't feel need to do all that anymore. I'm sorry that I felt myself ever having to do that. And I think that probably because she may have received a review, she may have seen something that someone had said or written or heard, and she is entertained it in her spirit. And I don't believe in entertaining everything in my spirit. I also don't believe in everything I read or what I hear bring it to someone else's attention so they can entertain in their spirit. And that's exactly what it sounds like. And I'm sorry that she feels that way because other writers, like we know that like JD Hobbs is also she writes thrillers, but she's Nora Roberts. She doesn't feel the need to validate herself in that way. There are so many of counterparts to Monique and Casey and Bailey who write in many different genres, and a lot of people don't even know that this person writes for Harlequin, but they're a New York Times bestseller writing thrillers or writing paranormal or fantasy or steampunk or urban or what have you, and they don't feel the need to validate themselves in any kind of way. And so once we realized that, and once we realized, I saw where maybe Anaya, someone said, Allegra, or someone said earlier about having that Black girl magic. Once we understand the power of our words, the power of our voices, and particular, just like when KC said she may write paranormal, she may be on Vampire Hunt, but L.A. Banks, she was the girl. But L.A. Banks was also Leslie Esdale, one of my favorite romance writers of all time. But she also wrote as L.A. Banks. And the Vampire Huntress really, to me, broke ground, especially when it came to not just that genre, but African American paranormals that allowed other people to understand that they can write in their vein and have their voice. But once we realize the power of our own voices, and that, as I said earlier, we have very different voices, and sometimes, like sometimes God bless you, hallelujah. And sometimes you be like, Lord, this girl need to be touched by Jesus. It just depends on if you catch me in the moment. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think, as content creators and creators, we're allowed to have those moments. Sometimes you may want to be sweet, and sometimes you may want to be And so I feel that once we realize, I said, the power of our voices, and we have many voices, and we don't need to validate who we are, what we do, what we write, what we say, how we sell, how we promote, then we will understand. Because a lot of people say they're free, but baby, they're not free. They're not free because they're still trying to validate themselves to people who, my grandma would say, don't mean hill of beings to you and don't even care about you. So, I'm Southern, y'all can tell by my twang. And I just truly believe that, honey, and that's in everything you do. Like Indy, I think she does a phenomenal job. I went to her events. I remember someone said, when I went to your event in Atlanta, I can't believe you down here. I'm like, girl, I don't care. I mean, you never done a thing to me. I was like, oh, I support anybody. I'll share your events. And I was like, wow, the mindset to believe that we can't support another African American woman. I mean, we're not in competition, just collaboration. When you shine, I shine. But a lot of people don't have that mentality. And so they're constantly chasing validation or constantly trying to prove their worth or things of that nature. And I just wish that we could understand the beauty of our voices and who we are and what we bring to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, Bailey and I travel all the time. Well, pre-pandemic, it didn't matter. I was going to Girl Have You Met? I went to Chinsia Higgins event. I'm going to support because indie love is what I do. It's not who I am per se. I'm a reader. I've been a reader. I'm gonna always be a reader, and I'm going to always try to support. I went to New York. Had never been to New York before. Went to New York to Behind the Pen because I wanted to support my sisters who were embarking on this. I was coming to LaSherry's event, and I don't know, something happened. Something happened, but that's the life happens where you can't come to everything. So I've heard those same comments too. I can't believe you're here. Why not? Why not? Just and even in promoting, I don't always necessarily have read what I've promoted, but I'm going to share it because it's an African American author, and y'all need all the support and push and the enlightenment shown upon you.
But one of
another thing, Andy, a lot of times when people say things to you, and this is in general, like that young lady who wrote that post, someone probably said something to her. I think that we need to stop as adults. Girl, I think they talking about you. Stop feeding negativity into people's spirits, because even though people say, oh girl, that didn't matter, that thing does. Once it enters your ears, sometimes it enters your spirit and your heart, and depending on what someone is going through, it can actually halt somebody or impede somebody from doing something that they had decided to do because, oh, they're not going to listen to me, or they're not going to listen to this book, or they're not going to read this book. So I think we as adults, some things we see and hear does not need to be repeated. We were taught that as children. We dream to teach our own children that, but somehow or another, it has lost that spice. So I hope as adults we don't necessarily feel the need to tell people negativity all the time.
Words have power, and words always have a mission. So we can say that when that left her mouth or when they entered my ear gate or eye gate, it didn't affect me. That's absolutely false. Whether you know that it affected you or not may be a different story. But when those words are put out into the atmosphere, they have a mission. Words coming out of our mouth either have death or life attached to them, period. There's no neutrality, right? So when it hits you, it can give you life or it can tear you down. And so you have to realize those things. Even when we were going back to when you were talking about our readers having a boldness to tell us, or even just as creators, period, to tell anybody, oh, I know you ain't do that, or why you put that lipstick with that makeup, or whatever they're talking about. People feel the need to say those things, not realizing that maybe in how you formulated in your mind, that word was neutral, but when it hits me in a way that it may impact me more deeply. So sometimes we have to really choose what we say. We have to pay attention to how it impacts other people. And like LaShira said, you got to be careful spreading that stuff, repeating it, sharing it, because you don't know how you don't know where that person is that day. And you don't know how that's going to impact them for a long time, or if they ever get over it. So yeah, words have power. And that's why writing for us is life, right? So when we put these books together, we're trying to show a part of our Black experience, or whatever experience that we're talking about, the vampire experience that Casey gonna write about, or whatever. We're trying to show. Right. I was thinking about, my werewolf got my baby mama pregnant or something. I don't know, but something. But because those books sell, I don't know what y'all talking about. But we put those books together, most of us, and I can't speak for the everybody, because like LaShira said at the beginning, we're not monolithic. We all think and move differently for different reasons. But typically when we put our books together, we're trying to tell you a story and get a point across, right? We want you to be there with us when we experience it, when we write it, and we want you to come away with something. One of the problems that we have in our community, and I spoke to it earlier, is that when we have new authors come into our community and we say, "Oh no, she ain't talking about her," I know, but they don't know where to go to connect.
Right.
So they come in off top, competing, because they don't know where to go. All the other kids on the playground playing kickball, and they standing up against the wall. So what they gonna do? Start throwing balls at people's heads to get attention? Come on, I mean, I'm yeah,
you know what's funny is I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, go ahead.
For me, typically, like, and even now, my authors, I like the experience of molding new authors, and I had a whole bunch of people that came to me, and some seasoned vet authors that were like, "Oh, you're starting your company back up." But my thing was, I wanted the new authors because I realized, same thing, kind of like with Bailey, when I entered the scene, I had a whole publisher, but everything I learned from trial and error. I did not have the experience of a publisher who did their job as a publisher outside of providing a cover and sending books for edits. Everything else I learned on my own. And that's the crazy part of it. So my journey, they see me now, but they don't know the roads I've traveled to get there. And so I had a really, really hard journey to get there because it was just me. I was an independent published person. How freaking insane is that? So for me now, my authors that I have are new. And so when I introduce them in my reading group, it's maybe 7,000, 8,000 people in there. The first thing I say is, hey, they're new. If their book is not for you, then just skip it, skip the review. It's okay. We know we want reviews, but I'd rather allow them that moment, that grace, that time to build without those outside voices. Because readers sometimes have really good intentions and sometimes they're just bold and they don't care. But like Bailey said, they don't realize that one review could be the make or break experience for that author to just say, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. Why should I? They think I'm terrible. They is one person, one voice.
Right.
You know? So I think that, and that's why, like, I absolutely love, you know, the idea of what Bailey's doing to bring all this stuff together so that there's a community and a space, a safe space for people to ask questions, to learn things so that when they enter this industry, they have a foundation and they have valid, knowledgeable insight about how to maneuver. Because when you have to do it on your own, now here's the thing, I came from a corporate world, I'm very intelligent. Like there's so much that I had as an advantage. However, when it came to this industry, it was just like deaf, dumb, and blind. So I think that we as a people with the, oh, she's talking to her, or she shared her post, or she's doing this. I don't do social media, and it hurts and it helps. It helps me keep my peace, but it hurts me because it's part of my marketing. But I cannot allow, like Bailey said, it's either going to build you up or tear you down. And I'm tough and I don't really give a crap about a lot of things, but I'm still a sensitive soul. So I think that, like I said, for my authors, they're new, they're brand spanking new, and I present them in a way where and everybody doesn't listen, but a lot of them do. So their experience is different. I'm like, hey, you don't have to love them. They're going to grow. I read my first book over and I was like, it was really good, but it was really bad. You know, so they need that time, that growth. And one person can change and shift the narrative for them. And that's the crazy thing. And I absolutely hate that. I hate that there's so much behind the scenes when it comes to that. And it really hurts people. And I pray that moving forward, we're in that space where we start to Like you said, when we build these tables, not only do we build these tables, we got to bring people in and say, hey, we got to support each other at these tables. So I'm going to go to Bailey's house and eat, and Bailey's going to come to my house and eat. We're going to go to Monique's house and eat, but we're all going to support each other in a way that we're building a solid foundation of us, and not just building these individual tables, but supporting each other, like you all are saying. That is so huge and so important.
Adrienne, as a reader, podcaster, you be doing, you blogging. I get all that.
I get Honesty Price does the blogging, but I just do the podcasting.
I'm not like when I get put in that category, she's a blogger. No, I'm really
not a blogger.
But as a reader, when you come across a new author and you read their book and it's like, oh, this was good, and you follow them and you see their growth, how do you feel about that? Then when somebody, it's a new book and it's like, but this is their first book. You're ready to tear them down, but this is their first book.
Yeah. It's so Josh, I will admit to I think maturing on that particular point as a reader. I've never been, right? My mother was a Southern Baptist woman, like, we didn't, so in terms of being outright nasty to people, you know how Southerners are, right? So, oh, bless your heart, right? There's a way that you be nasty to people without being outright nasty, right? But even it was very much that if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all, right? And so I've never been the type to outright in a review, I hated it. My go-to line is, this was not, it didn't float my boat, or it wasn't my cup of tea, because I'm mindful that things are subjective, right? To your point, though, and I actually just had that very experience a couple of weeks ago with an author. There was chatter in one of the book groups about this particular book. So, okay, because that's where I get all my recommendations now, right? From the different book groups. And shout out to Ayana. I know she's on the line, Bourbon Street Bookers and Hopeful Heartbreakers, some of the other groups where fellow readers will post something. Oh, this book was amazing. I loved it. It was great. And that generates excitement, and you dive in and you read and you're like, or maybe you're like, oh, my eyes have been opened. I can't believe it. And you dive into that person's catalog. But I had that experience where I read an earlier book and I saw the potential, and I was like, I see it. I see it. Right. And in my review, I actually referenced that because it was a good story. And I thought to myself, the book was 5 to 6 years old. The author has since written, I don't even know how many more books. But I said to myself, I see the potential from 5, 6 years ago. So undoubtedly, her style has continued, and the talent has continued to be refined and burnished like a diamond. And I look forward to reading more from her, right? Wanting to give the credit where credit is due, because some of my favorite authors, you can see that, right? If you read some of the earlier works and then you read something from the last year or two and you're like, okay, which candidly is the way that it should be, right? I mean, there should be growth and maturation in anything that we're doing as the years go by. It shouldn't just be, the calendar ticking off and you're not improving and maturing. And I think that's actually quite satisfying. There has to just be, I think the word you said was grace, right? And we have to, there is nothing wrong with being honest in a review. And I think Love in particular does a great point of saying, be honest, but you don't have to be nasty about it, right? You can be honest without being nasty. And that's something that we were taught as children. You can stand up for yourself. You can articulate that you didn't care for it. If, there were grammar issues, bad editing, you can.
That was none but the devil, because she
lost it.
That wasn't honey. She'll be back. But I shared this from Letitia Williams. As a reader, I leave honest reviews. How is an author supposed to grow if they don't know they're doing anything wrong? But and Letitia, I'm not coming for you. I'm coming for, but why is it wrong?
Right.
What defines what is right and what is wrong for that author? Some people, and I'm not saying you, some people just write nasty, mean reviews. They write reviews that say, I didn't like the book because I didn't know it was going to be, you left me on a cliffhanger, and I don't do cliffhangers. Get out of here. I'm telling you now, I'm one of them people that click report because I don't like that you wrote that. Get out of here with that. I report a heartbeat on that. I didn't like the review is a 3-star review because you didn't like what the character did to the other character. And like as you mentioned love, but did I write the story?
Yes. Yes.
Was the story written?
Yes.
Did it make sense? Not just because you didn't like that character, so you giving me a 3-star review. Those are the reviews that I have issues with. I'm not gonna get on that tangent because I'll go on that tangent and be highly upset. I just don't like nasty reviews. I believe in uplift, and Allegra made a point. I can't find it right now, where she said if she doesn't care for it, she just doesn't write a review, and that's me. If I don't care for it, I'm not going to write a review because I'm not in the business of tearing anybody down at all.
And can I just speak to the growth? How can an author grow? And again, I think that's an honest question that Letitia asked. From the point of view of a reader. But honestly, I don't know if I'm looking for your comment to help me, your review to help me grow, right? I'm looking for your review to see if you understood the story. If it hit home with you, or if not, you can be honest about that. But in our actuality, the growth comes through maturity and learning, researching new things and finding new ways to do it. And as an author writes and writes more and practices the craft, they'll grow. We really don't necessarily look for a reader's review to help us grow, as the word is used in that context. It's not what we're looking for. I'm just going to say it like that. And so sometimes I think readers feel the responsibility, right? Like we're asking, hit me with your best shot, fire away, because I want to grow. But no, because if I put this story out to you, to me as the author, the one that created it, it's good to me, right? So if they had sex the first day or the last day, and your complaint is, why didn't they get it in the middle? Because it's my story and it's kind of how I want to write it, And I think that a lot of times us as authors, we toe a very fine line with letting people have it and sitting back, right? Because you don't want to be that person. But I do want to just say that to the readers, that we appreciate you guys, and we love the fact that you read our stuff, and we love the fact that you let us know what you thought about it. But constructive and destructive are two totally different things. And ultimately, if you're writing that review and saying the author is going to read this review and she's going to grow from it, I probably can guarantee you that that's not how they feel when they read it.
Yeah.
So like I talked about, words coming out, hitting different than how you calculated in your mind. You just got to kind of play around with that. That's all I want to say.
And I want to add to that because so insanity, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's typically how I feel about some of these reviews and stuff like that. So, I mean, I have gotten the most insane reviews sometimes where it's like they have rewritten my entire story. I have been writing for 7 years. My style of writing is consistent, although the stories that I write have varied. But you know me as an author and how I deliver and how I write certain things and how my relationships unfold and things of that nature. So if you read my books over and over again, expecting me to change and write something different versus you saying, hey, maybe this author is not for me, I'm going to select another author who writes the style that I prefer, that's my issue with it. Because I have some readers who, and the thing of it is, they're not always nasty, but they are rewriting my stories. And like you said, Bailey, I wrote the story. I wrote it that way. And this is how I write my stories. And they're different. I've wrote over 100 and something books. All the stories are different, but my style of writing is the same. I do romance with an edge. I have very, emotion-filled men and characters and things of that nature. I don't do cheating to a certain degree. So those are things that are my style of writing. And if you don't prefer that, if you want wildness, drama, hitting somebody over the head with a bottle in a club, or you want somebody that's going to be a habitual cheater, or you want a certain type of friendship with the women that I write about, and you know that I hadn't done it in the first 10 books, I'm not going to do it in the next 90 because that's not my style. So I feel like, to a certain degree, the insanity of it, if I don't like oranges, but I go buy oranges and I sit them on my counter and I'm looking at them oranges like, I really can't stand you. Who am I to blame? I bought the dang oranges. So that's kind of my feel with reviews. And then the other side of that, like Bailey said, is when I read a review, I'm looking to see if you felt something, if I delivered, if my characters showed you a different way of life or gave you insight on your life and things of that nature, if I delivered the story. I'm not looking for reviews to grow necessarily as an author when it comes to technical things or how I craft my stories, because my brain is my brain. I'm going to write however I write the story. But I do want to know that you enjoyed it. I do want to know that those characters meant something. I don't want you to get to the end of my book and you are like, I just didn't even feel a dang thing, because then at that point I need to switch things up. But everything is not for everyone. So if my style is not for you, I'm okay with that. If I lose 5, readers, I'm going to gain 10 more somewhere else. And that's okay with me. And I'm even to the point now, because it's what I love. I want mass readers, but I'm okay if somebody takes something away from my books. And so those are the things that are important to me. And I'm mature too. I'm 47. Certain things don't mean anything to me anymore. I write because it's what I love to do. So those outside voices I'm still working on, I'm a work in progress, but I have learned to dissect those and take away what's important. And as authors, new, old, if you're out there listening, I promise you, if you don't stick with what moves you, what feeds your soul and your spirit, and you're trying to incorporate all these outside voices into your craft, you will sink and tank every single time. Absolutely. It will not work. And so you have to stand by your product and understand that this is your story and this is what you put out there, and it means something to you. And it might not be this reader, but it might be that one. And so that's what you have to do. I have learned to write the stories, and the readers who it's meant for will come to it. And I have to believe that. And that's my motto. And that's what I tell everybody. And when you can get to that point, like I said, I'm still a work in progress, but when you can get to that point, it means something and it feeds your soul. And that's where we have to be as a people with this craft.
And I want to, as a newer author, I want to say, like, the best advice I got coming in was, don't let one bad review make you lose sight of the 100 good reviews. And that's kind of complicated when you read that one bad review and it's like, they're like telling you, why did you do this and this to so-and-so? And, it can be very critical. And it's for a person who overthinks a lot of things. Because this is what I love to do, I don't allow it to stop me. But I think about those authors who, they don't have that, like, they want to do it and they love to do it, but then they look at what other people are saying about these other authors who they feel like are good, really good authors to them. And, well, if they say that about them, then, I have no hope, like those type of things. Mm-hmm. But, and then some of these reviews that have like they didn't read the book, that kills me all the time. That's hilarious. Like, I skimmed through the whole book, but yet I left a 2-star review because such and such happened. I don't get it. But I did appreciate that advice because it really does help. It's still it depends on what's said, but you take the good with the bad and just try to figure out what you can keep and what you can throw away. So just for anybody who is trying to venture into, writing or becoming an author or whatever, just know that you don't let the one bad review make you lose sight of all the rest of the reviews over here telling you, hey, this was a good story. And then I get a lot of 5-star reviews, and they don't even say that they will still point out what could have been better and things like that. But the actual story itself was very good. And that's what they will say. I love when people say that, like, although I didn't like this part, the book itself is very good. And that is a constructive review.
And see,
So,
I could deal with that. I didn't like certain
exactly.
that I might not care for.
Yeah.
But it's like, but the overall book, it spoke to me. I enjoyed the read. I was talking to somebody about a book I was reading, and she was like, well, I'm at a part that's kind of slow. And I'm thinking, well, what was slow? There was nothing. I didn't catch nothing slow, but that was her perspective. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know where you at, but if I remember correctly, everything was moving. Monique, let me ask you this, because I think I've read most of everything because Monique be putting them out there. I think I've read most of it. I've read a lot of your work, and in the short time that you have been out and being published. So, and you have a diversity. You can write some urban. Some of her dudes are they some straight urban bays with the gold teeth and the whole nine. And then there's the straight lace, and then there's the police officers. So when you write and people say, wow, that's different, that doesn't sound like the same person. To me, that's the diversity of your ability to be able to write differently. Okay, like Casey's gonna write her paranormal, but that's a whole that's a whole nother, genre per se. How do you handle when people like, wow, you went a whole different direction than what you started out as?
So I'll be honest, when I released Uncovering Love, which is kind of romantic suspense, I would say it's got a lot of suspense in it. And that was the reaction that was not me. I didn't write it. Why does she do this instead of going to what she's normally used to writing? But I'm one of those people that don't want to be in a box. Like, I literally just released a Christian inspirational romance book. So I have always said I want to tap into different things, and either people are going to like it or they aren't. So so I just go with the flow. I literally write what my mind conceives. If I can pull off writing about DEA agents and FBI agents and still have suspense and still have romance in it, to me, that's still, if I can still write a good book about that, and it's not my normal, then, and it doesn't sound like me, but then by that second time you read a romantic suspense, you're like, oh yeah, this is her book. This is definitely her. And then they don't see that anymore. Oh, that's all she can write. People can step out and do different things and it still be them and not be seen as, oh, they can't write that. Like, why does she even change up the way she is? And really, truly, if you read it, you'll see my style of writing is still in there. It's just that now it hops into a different genre, but my style is still there. Nothing changes about my style. So,
absolutely. So, I mean, the same thing with KC. KC writes some urban. You'd be like, okay, something you put back up, and I delved right into all of the entire series and was like, okay, which I knew you had written urban, but I've read some of your romance as well. So I don't have a problem with authors who can write outside of the box. So when you said you wrote an inspiration, first you called it Christian, and you said inspiration. Bailey hates when people put her in that box of Christian fiction.
I feel the same way, Bailey. I feel that when I went to put this book out, I said, why can't it just say inspirational romance? I don't understand why it has to be so much Christian romance. It, to me, really is inspirational romance. It still has a lot of other elements in it that, I don't know. I had a hard time with that, but yes, I get it. I get it, baby. I get it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Wait,
no,
wait a
I
minute.
got it.
Is
I'm
there
following it.
sex in Christian romance? Because
No.
okay,
No.
okay, because
Well, I'm gonna be a little messy right here. It depends on who you ask. If you ask the gatekeepers, they'll say no. But they're
But
that's
there
a whole different show. But there
Mhm.
are some people who say that there can be. Some people say there could be the tension, the sexual tension, where you just close the door and you can imagine what happens. But
I
that's
don't want
but
to
that's
close
like
the
a
door in the morning.
5 hour
me either.
conversation.
Ladies,
I
ladies,
don't
keep
want. I
keep
don't
the
want to.
detail.
I don't want
Keep
to
all
close
the
the door, and I
detail.
imagine
Yeah,
what
so that's
is
what they would
happening.
call Christian romance. But that's a
Right.
5 hour
I
conversation.
mean, in all honesty, I've read Christian romance and found nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
You know, you imagine, but there are some people who don't even write Christian romance who will call it cookie cutter, and it's the same thing, and it's not considered
But clean
Christian.
and sweet romance.
Yeah,
Right.
and sometimes,
Clean, sweet
I mean,
romance.
after I've read something really gritty or something really deep, I want that. You
Yeah.
know, my soul has been dragged in this other book. It needs some sweetness right here. That's the diversity of what I, love to read. Bailey and I are gonna be talking Friday about her latest release. And of course I had an early version because that's my friend. But my first thing to her was, are you ready? Because they're gonna come for you. They're gonna come for you with the things that you had Pastor is doing. And she said, I'm ready. That's confidence. I know who I am. I know what this book was
Right.
supposed to be, and it hit all the points that it was supposed to hit. And no, it's not. Even though he's a pastor, he's a man,
He's a
and
man. Yeah.
Right.
I'm
Still
okay
a human. Still a
But,
human.
once again, as you say, Andy, she doesn't tag herself as being a Christian fiction author. And
no,
just like you had Sex in the Sanctuary, Love Like Hallelujah, or
right,
a
right,
couple of other books, Child. Yeah,
Yes.
right.
they didn't
Sex
consider
in the
Yes.
Sanctuary. I mean, I think that was one of my first books by Letitia Lovely. I was in the bookstore, and I was on a field trip with my church at summer camp, and I was like,
But that was a good experience.
hey, look, you should have seen me. I bought it, wrapped it up real good, stuck it in my book bag because I didn't want nobody to be like,
Mhm.
Miss Morris, what you got? Nothing.
Mhm.
Well,
Ask you again with
I mean, I didn't know what it was. I mean, and it wasn't classified as Christian fiction, but it's a very good. It's the whole series is good, and they get down and dirty, and
And I think for me, that's one of my biggest struggles and which is why I've gotten to the point. Now, when you put a book out, you have to put it in certain categories.
Yeah,
What
you
do
have to
you know?
categorize it.
Every single time, what you're going to take away from my book are these are beautiful Black people in all shades. They some of them may be mixed ethnicities, but ultimately they are classified as beautiful Black people in all arenas, no matter how they come. So that's what you're going to get from my books. But there too, again, I write the book because I don't outline, I don't do it. I sit down and whatever the universe feeds me is what comes out. I free write. And so I don't know what I'm going to get half the time. I don't know who my characters are, what their personalities, any of that. So I very well may be writing about, a thug, but then he might just have a really deep spiritual side. There's so many, I don't know what I'm going to get. So it's really hard for me sometimes to say, this is urban, this is romance, this is that. You might get every single one of those things in one book.
Right.
So I write the book, and the readers who it's meant for will migrate to it. And there are going to be some that read like, this is not what I was expecting. And that's okay. But like Bailey, I stand behind everything I write. It just basically means that if I put it out there, I believed in it. And it's from my spirit and my soul. I have given you everything whatever I got, I put it into that book. And when I released it and handed it over to you, I felt it was for somebody. Now, who that somebody is, half the time I don't know. I just know that I wrote a beautiful story and it was from my spirit. So those are things, and I'm like Bailey too, and like Monique, I don't want to be put in a box because, like I said, I need y'all to erase that, the vampire werewolf, whatever. If I choose to go that route, if that's what I choose to do, they may be vampires living underwater. They may be living in a high rise in New York. Who the freak knows? Because
Right.
I won't know until I sit down and write it. But I don't want somebody to come back and be like, oh, she's a romance author. She can't write that. I don't, why is she writing this? Or there's some people that don't even know I do romance. They're still stuck in my urban days, and that's all they know of me. So I don't want to, like I said, the when you put the book out, you have to put it in categories. But I just really want people to know this is a KC Mills book. Her signature style is going to be there. She is crafting romance with an edge. I'm going to get those two things in there. I know that for sure. I'm going to get these beautiful Black people, but I don't know what my stories are. I am a multifaceted person. I have been in every lane there is when it comes to life and my life experiences. So I know Section 8, I know $1 Million Properties. I'm all over the place. So I don't know what you're going to get when I write. It just depends on what the universe is handing me at that time. That's what comes out. And so we, circling back to that, as a people have to understand that write the stories, just write them, write the stories, and who they're meant for, they'll migrate to it. And that is the biggest piece of advice I can give, because you can't box yourself in and say, this is who I am as an author. I'm a creative. Whatever I create is coming out. And that's just that.
Joss, can I just, because Lashira, you were making a different point, but when you were pointing to some very, very famous authors who write under different names, right, and who have done different things, it's because as I get deeper into audiobooks, seeing that as well with narrators choosing different monikers depending on the genre, because while it should be that people just embrace what they're given and enjoy it, and I think, Casey, to your point, if it's not for them, they set it to the side. The reality is that there's the risk of the backlash, right? I can remember Jacoby Diem on one of his lives or whatever saying that he was at a family event, and it might have even been a funeral, right? And one of his relatives he could see her making the connection with one of the books that he had narrated, and there was a moment where she asked him about it, and it was one of the Black romance books, but had some very graphic sex scenes in it. And I don't know if it was his aunt or his grandma or whoever it was, but they were like seeing him in a different light, and I think that there is a reality there that even your devout fans, Casey, when they are used to getting something particular from you and you decide to do something in outer space, it's like you start to realize why some authors decide, you know what, for that one, maybe I'm better served using a different name and let that be received however it's going to be received, rather than I don't want to say baggage, but I've associated a certain trope with KC or a certain thing with KC, and KC has gone completely left field. And I, as a reader, have a reaction to that instead of saying, well, this was very different and maybe it wasn't my cup of tea. And now I'm hopping in the reviews and saying, I can't believe why this doesn't sound right, so on and so forth. But it starts to make sense why some authors and now narrators just kind of make a division, because it shouldn't be that way. But it is, right? In many instances, it is.
Adrian, I know like a few indie authors who are actually doing that.
Before you say that, let me ask this. So when they do that, and I know there are plenty of them that do that, but then you tell us who you are.
So like myself, I write children's books, but I don't go under Monique on my children's books because, of course, it is two separately. Yes. So, but with my inspirational romance, I kept Monique because I literally made it very clear it was an inspirational romance. So, I got a lot of questions. What is an inspirational romance? And I'm like, it's what I would normally write without all the extra stuff. I don't know, this is me trying to explain, but that's, it's like, I'm glad I did that because you still want to keep yourself in what you can do. You still want to keep, you don't want people to control everything that you do when it comes to something that you have a passion for.
And I guess
So,
that's my point when okay, so say you wrote your inspiration, but you used Great Value. That's because it's sitting in front of me. I had to think of it. Great Value Water. That's the name I wrote under. But then but I want you to know Great Value and M. Monique is the same person.
Right.
To me, if I'm gonna know that it's still M. Monique and she just wrote it, stay with this is my personal opinion. It don't make sense to me. If you're gonna write it and it's under a different name, then don't tell me it's a different. You're making me think you're a different person. To me, for me, you have the ability to write all of these different genres and touch on all this as yourself. It's you. Did that make sense? Did I say that right?
It does. And for me personally, my name means something to me. So I had a unique experience to where I almost couldn't have my name. And so my name means something for me. So when it comes to different arenas, and I agree with both points though, because I understand the separation in saying, if this is this story, I understand why they do it. I personally would not. That's just me, my personal thing, because I'm going to market the book different. I'm not going to have bullets and guns on a story that I'm putting in inspirational. Like, so that's my separation when it comes to stuff like that. I know the market, and that's the biggest thing that authors do not. That's one thing that I really wish people would school people on. Know your target audience, because I can't go put out, thugs and Christian, and they're doing certain things. So yeah, thug can be Christian and religious or whatever, but their behavior has to align with that. So for me, I know my target audience, and I'm going to market certain materials a certain way, but it's a Casey Mills. You're going to know that because my name for me really means something. And so the separation comes from me with knowing my target audience. And here's the thing. I'm going to bring over some of my old people and I'm going to gain some new. And those that don't want to travel over to that lane when I go, I pray that they sit it aside and say, this is not for me. I'll catch you when you come back with what I like or what I'm used to. But I have to understand that I'm also going to shift the narrative for a few people that I didn't even know I liked this till I read your book. Now I'm going to go find some other stuff. So it's, for me, I am Casey Mills when I write. I don't care what it is. That's always going to be me. Now with the kids thing, I probably would do that different only because you don't want those kids and then
stumbling onto when we
my
books are borderline erotica. I don't want that. I don't want
them to stumble upon that one.
Just borderline. Just borderline.
Right.
Borderline. So
I can get that also for under young adult and all of that. So this person says, is it Danny, is it because some people can be so extra when it comes to one name and its content versus the other? And so I'm assuming you're asking, now there's urban and then there's street lit. Am I saying that's correct? Right. So if I write street lit, do I need to write under this name? And then if I'm gonna write Black romance, I need to write under this name. For me, I want to know I can find you under street lit. When I want to read some street lit by you, I'm gonna find you over here. And when I want to read some Black romance, I can find you over here. I want to switch gears really quick because we are over an hour. I didn't put a time limit. And I'll rock with y'all as long as y'all want to rock. But I know it's a Saturday and folks have things to do. We touched on it just a little bit on when you brought up Jacoby and audiobooks. Where are we going? I mean, I think audiobooks, it's not always my thing, but I think it's a great thing. I think it has taken off. We are totally evolving. People who don't necessarily like to read or don't have time to sit down and read a book and turn the pages and all of that. Audiobooks are a great thing. Where do we see it expanding in the future? Or do we think at some point it's going to just kind of fall off?
I don't see it falling off.
That's it.
But
Oh, audiobook is something like $12 billion in business in 2018. So it's not falling off at all. And there are other things that are evolving, the digitalized. And I just had this comment, and I will tell people, not some of you all, because you all are indie, but for anyone consider, you will probably want to keep your audio rights, because digitization is huge. There's so many things going on that people are creating that could be considered audio. And a lot of people just, give those rights away. So there's just a hint. I would kind of, try to keep those rights, because it's better to negotiate with someone other than your, probably sometimes your bigger publishing company. So I don't think they're going away. Not nonfiction is hot. YA is hot. Your fantasy, urban, all those are hot. The market for African American audio rights is getting there, but there's also other things. There's gaming rights. There are apps. Somebody inboxed me the other day about a gaming app that I got to research it to actually figure out where to put somebody with this. But there's so many things that are on the horizon, because technology is constantly changing. So I don't think audio is going away. Actually, I think audio, anything digitalized, is just right now, I think we're just seeing the ground floor. And anytime someone's making over, $5 or $6 billion a year, oh honey, it's not going away.
No, I don't. I just threw that as a question, and Kima is absolutely right. They've been around forever. I think us as or indie authors, black independent authors, it is just now starting to make sense to some of us to get into that into that lane and take it to the next level. I mean, Jacoby and Wesley have come out banging, and everybody wants them. My issue is, are we getting used to hearing the same people over and over and over and over again? This is me. Josh, not even Indy. This is Josh. I don't want to hear the same person from a series do all the voice. Now he's the brother, the uncle, the nephew. I don't want to hear that voice, because that voice is stuck in my head. You know what I mean? So like when I listened to LB's, I loved it, but then it was still Wesley and
Emmanuel
when I went to listen to CCJ. So I had to wait, because those voices was the same voices, and it was a whole different story for me. But in my mind, I have to keep saying this disclaimer, this is me. In my mind, I'm still thinking Tori and Ashton, even though we're talking CCJ's characters. Does that make that,
that's the business side of it, though. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
that's
go
the
ahead.
Business side of it, and that's where we as a people, where we're talking about building these tables,
right?
We have to know that that's a lane for us, so that we can there's so few limited that we can use, and I'm the same way. And then as an expense, you can't employ 8 different people to do one audiobook, or, and then so we as a people have to say, and this is something that, Bailey's bringing to the forefront, create a area so that we have 4,000 people versus 40 people that we can choose and select from for these audiobooks. I personally, I'm an OCD person. I'm a squirrel, so I can't listen to audiobooks. However, as a business person, I understand that when I get, 4 or 5 people a week that are messaging me going, hey, when are you going to put this in audiobooks? That's 4 or 5 people that actually reached out. There's probably 50 to 100 that didn't reach out because they don't feel like they have the right to do that, or they don't even know my social media exists. So there's a market there. So my business sensors are going haywire. Like, I have to do this. I have to put these books in audio. But also the flip side of that is, I'm like, oh, well, Bailey just used this person, and LB just used this person, CC Jones used them on 3. And, so then I'm like, uninspired about doing it because, like you said, Joss has said, I just listened to 4 different audiobooks and they're all the same narrator. So when we build these tables, we also have to say, put it out there that, hey, people, we as African Americans can get into this audio thing. It's lucrative. You know, and it's growing and it's not going anywhere. So we need to get in that lane, because I want to get on the site and be overwhelmed with all these narrators. I want to be like, who Jesus, who am I going to choose? But now I don't have that option. So I'm not motivated to do my audiobooks because the feedback is the same.
And this is a perfect, what did I do with it? I think this is it. This is a perfect example. Oh, if the new artist doesn't perform to the same standard. But are we even giving them a chance? That's the thing.
It's diversity, right? Because that's not monolithic either. And so there are definitely people who they will listen to everything Jacoby has narrated, right? Under all names that he uses, because they enjoy that experience, or same for Wesley, or so on and so forth. I do think that community is growing. I also think people understanding the distinction between the story being read versus the story being performed. I think that there are more voice actors coming in as opposed to people, like if I look at some of the OGs who literally just read their books. Y'all know who some of those folks are, right? And it's like, that's not what we're talking about here, right? And that's an audiobook, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people that are actually performing the story and bringing it to life. And I would just say, you know, shout out to Joan Vassar and Alexandria House, because they just launched Audio in Black, right? A website focused on Black audio books, right? So speaking to this notion of that community continuing to grow and hopefully profiling more narrators, creating opportunity for more narrators that bring our stories to life. Because that's part of it too, right? It's there's a lot of narrators that are doing really, really well from narrating books that are not ours.
Right.
And
also down to what we need as a people to compete. So what do we need to compete with as indie authors and African American authors? What do we need as a resource to compete? Because there's so much that we lack because we don't have the resources for it. But Lord forbid, once we get it, like I said, that superpower, we're dominating and we're taking over. But we need the resources so that we can compete and compete with quality. That's the biggest
thing. That is. That's why we have to, I spoke earlier about even bringing, when new authors come into the community and no one is corralling them or showing them where everybody else is or how to get help, we have to build that community. And then within building that community, like you were talking about, Casey, how you take authors under your wing and kind of explain to them certain things, we have to do the same thing with these narrators, right? You say you want to do it, then let's build not just a website that says this is where they are, but let's build and this is what we've been talking about and working on. Let's build a workshop, right? Where you come in, you say, I want to be a voice actor, and we'll sit you down and we'll say, okay, voice actors, teach them how to be voice actors, and then we'll put you into this community and then give the authors the ability to pick from them and use them. But the key is we have to remember as a community that we're always the ones that we got to learn this stuff, right? We got to Google it, we got to Instagram it, TikTok it, or whatever. But if we build our community that's airtight, where you come in and we teach you all this stuff, like then you'll know it. So nobody can say, oh, what are you saying? How you do? No, because you sat down and you learned, and then you were put out there to do it. Maybe it takes some people a couple of sessions to learn it, and maybe some people will be ready right away. But then those voice samples will be up on the website. We can scroll through as authors and be like, oh, her, him, and just be overwhelmed with the choices that we have. That's where we have to get to as a community, right? So not just throwing everybody to the wolves saying, you suck, you come, you suck, you cut, but making sure that everybody have ample opportunity to learn these things and to help us and to build this community.
Ash, I promise I'm not. I don't see it.
I just thought that.
I don't see it. And what y'all don't realize,
Because sometimes you will ignore some stuff. I ain't gonna even. I mean, she's probably
we
right.
get so many friend requests, baby. And I'm not built for some of the nonsense, so I apologize in advance if you've been dangling for some weeks. I'm sorry, it's not intentional.
Yeah.
I guess we can start to kind of wrap up. If you guys have any questions or you want to add some more, feel free to do so. Drop your questions in the comments really quickly. This has been a great discussion. I'm always. I don't want to say I'm shy because Bailey West has pulled me out into this. When COVID hit, we were sitting around. You want to chat? Sure. And I'm like, I don't really want to be on camera. I don't really want to do all of that. But I'm coming out of my box a little bit more and more. And then I'll be watching LaShira and she just be doing it. And I'll be like, God, dog, Josh, you so slow. Somebody told you to do this a long time ago and you ain't do it. But I feel like everything is in its reason, in its season. And when it's time, it's time. I'm not, I'll get in my group and we'll chat all day long. We've been kind of quiet in there too, but I truly enjoy picking you all's brains, getting your perspective on things. There's a lot of things that I see behind the scenes that I'm not going to ever comment on publicly. I may get in my friends' text, thread and be like, woo to woo to woo. But I think there are some conversations that are truly needed. And we need to be open to have them instead of having behind the scenes sidebar conversations, because then there's nothing is ever solved when that happens. So I truly appreciate you all taking some time out to well, throw some questions in there, Miss Belvin, if you got some. She said it's time to wrap up. I don't know where she been for the past hour and a half, but I can see. I don't understand this question. LaShira. Oh yeah, she will. LaShira be out there popping. She don't care. She will have every conversation there is, and I'm here for it. I jump in it. Don't sleep on LaShira. LaShira got connections far and long. She's very knowledgeable in this industry, and I'm sitting back learning some things myself. And I love it. LaShira and I part of the Divine Nine, so we really gonna do some things.
All right, I think Adrian had a question.
What I'm hearing is jump in LaShira's inbox because LaShira got the juice. That's what I felt like I got from that.
She does have the juice. She has the juice.
Hey, all you got to do is watch LaShira's.
Baby has a question in case and Monique your next book.
And Monique, where is Gray? Okay, where is Gray?
He's chilling.
I want to be his sister wife. See? These are the questions.
Oh, you know what? We haven't talked about Indie Love that much. I'm excited about Indie Love.
What you want to know?
Josh, you never answered my question of whether, shrieking, falling on the floor, crying, I love you, throwing of underwear onto tables as part of hero worship, whether that was going to be grounds for someone being escorted out. I'm asking for a friend.
Indie Love, if you've never been, is like a big family reunion. So let me just tell the story. LaShira don't want you guys to know this, but let me just tell you this story about Miss LaShira. LaShira came to Indie Love 2019.
I thought we got off of me.
It didn't work. No, we back.
And then y'all see Love done put a question in there.
Me and my mom,
right?
Me and my mom literally stood back and just kind of watched. LaShira was so excited. She probably don't even know how excited she was. LaShira was so excited. My mom said LaShira walked in. She saw her before I did because I'm floating around. She said she didn't know what table to go to first. That's just how excited LaShira was. And it's almost like she could not stand it that she stood at this table too long, because then she had to go to this table. And she knows everybody. So she had to go from here to here. And it was just so cute to watch her run from table to table.
Okay, I
the
thought I was
experience.
off of me. I do not know how I got on
No,
this
listen,
roller coaster.
that
I've thrown
is
this
the
ball
experience.
several times.
That is the experience of indie love. That it's intimate. It's and people get upset when, well, why you don't have more Arthurs and why you just, because that was not what the vision that was put on my heart to do. It was to be an intimate experience, and that's what I tried to offer. So you're going to get a panel discussion. You're now I'm just, because I was going to do a question and answer on Amazon, Lord, on Instagram later on, either tomorrow or whatever, so you can ask all your questions, because we are totally sold out. No, I can't add no more tickets. The vice president said if I add one more ticket on the website, he quitting,
Oh,
and I need all the help from him that I can get. So I can't add no more tickets. I believe this is our largest yet. I hope the hotel don't put us out, because we're gonna be up in that thing. I'm truly excited. Adrian, they all got husbands and significant others that don't play about them.
I
So,
got bail money.
you might need it, because you get too excited.
No, I'm not going to do anything that involves me getting disbarred from my day job. Have no fear.
I have one. We already know we got one little person that says she's gonna jump on somebody. So I'm just saying,
That was not me.
I will say this, and I can say this now. It's an awesome experience. They know I don't like to say stuff like that, because I don't want anybody to ever say, Joss, aka Indy, thinks she all that. I don't. I just want to always provide an awesome experience to the authors and the readers. To be honest with you, sometimes I don't care about the readers. I walk around and I be checking on my authors. Are you okay? How did you do? I don't want to know what you made, but did you do all right? You know what I mean? I that's how it started.
That's true.
It started for
That's true.
the authors, and it started out with authors that I like, and it kind of still is that way. So don't be in your feelings when it's like, yeah, okay, let me read something you did before I just say, yeah, come on. And
I could say from a participant's viewpoint, from an author's viewpoint, that indie love. I mean, I came with 2 books on the table, my first one,
and I didn't care.
and she didn't care, and she showed me the same grace and lack of a better word, favor that she showed all of the other authors that were there. She consistently asked, how we were doing, and if we did okay, because her goal is to make sure that the authors are doing well during the event. So I definitely appreciate that. But I see Love Belvin just all in the comments. Damn, where were you at the beginning?
And Lashira ignored her question.
She asked something about marketing.
You were
Lashira.
talking, so I was just.
Okay, go ahead, Lashira. I need to put it back. Lashira, what is your take on marketing for Black indie authors? Are we behind the 8 ball?
Well, to be honest, a lot of indie authors think that people traditionally publish that they get a lot of marketing dollars, and African American authors in the big, I call it 4.5 now, not unless you big celebrity or things of that nature, or you have a influencer. Sometimes they don't get a lot of marketing dollars either as well. What I do think is that having books in Barnes & Noble or Target or Walmart, not just online, but being visible, that does help. And that also helps you get, maybe the Good Morning America, things of that nature. But what I've seen in the last, I'll say, like, especially since the pandemic, I've seen that a lot of indie authors, they have really, I don't like to use killing because it's a positive word, but they have been doing an awesome job of connecting, supporting one another, uplifting one another, and sharing release dates, audio dates, and things of that nature. So I don't think you're necessarily behind the 8 ball when it comes to that. I actually think, in comparison to some of the traditionally published authors who have been used to, in some regards, have been used to that machine, the regime behind them promoting, and then they're learning the things. They are actually, some of them are probably behind the 8 ball, to be honest with you, because they're having to learn to do this stuff all on their own.
Yeah.
Bailey, you're next.
My thoughts on building
a community of Black literary professionals.
So we talked about that a little bit, but I'm gonna give you guys a Future of Black Romance exclusive. For about a year now, Love Belvin and I, with the backing of several other amazing Black independent authors, have been building a community. And the name of that community is the Black Literary Consortium. The consortium is going to be an all-encompassing business league of literary professionals. And we are looking to provide a community, right, where we can all come together to learn, to grow, and to source our resources, to build that table that we don't have. So all of those tables and those doors that are closed, we straight building doors and building tables and making seats available for everybody in the literary community. So not just authors, in the Black literary community. So not just authors, not just editors, but we're talking about bloggers, vloggers, cover designers, narrators, all of us who are swimming in a sea of nothingness, trying to find the connection. The Black Literary Consortium is going to provide that for you. So we are excited. We have been working very hard. We've talked to so many people. We've had so many conversations. And so now we are on the final leg where we can finally release that into the world, and to create that space where then when we are all together in one place, they always take us serious. They never say, oh, it's just a cup. No, they take us serious. Anytime you go into the store and let it be 4 or 5 of y'all, somebody paying attention, right? And the same thing we want to create in this environment is all of us coming together to create a community. No, we're not all trying to share our work, or we're not all trying to be the same, but we want to bring that uniqueness that we have together to create a powerful force, so that when Amazon comes knocking, when the movie rights start knocking, when all of these things start happening, we have the backing to say we can do this ourselves. Even if you can't, we can. And so that's what our goal is. And are there cliques in our indie community? That's a really good question. Casey, what you think?
I'm going to say yes and no. I don't necessarily consider it a clique. I would consider it trusted associates, because I have experienced people who had started off amazing, and then things shifted or changed for one reason or another. And so it's really hard to find a group of people, my sisterhood, that clique of people. And I hate the word clique when it comes to that, but just people who you can truly invest in. And when I say invest, you have to invest your time, your knowledge, your craft, all of that, and not have that mishandled. So there are cliques, you hate to say that, but I think more or less on the surface, those cliques aren't as important as the true friendships and relationships that people presume to be cliques. And so that's kind of how I feel about it. I've met some wonderful people in the industry in all genres, all arenas, editors, publishers, just different people, but there's only a small few that I trust my knowledge, my craft to pour into me. I pour into them. That there's a small group of people who have not let me down in that aspect. And that's the same, I feel, for a lot of people. So on the surface, they're cliques, but I think it's more about who you trust yourself to, and have a dependable team of people that you can count on.
She threw another question in.
I'm gonna need love to go away. I absolutely hate talking money. But here's the thing. So I feel like the money comes from the effort and the craft. And so there are some people that naturally migrate to urban. So the abundance is there. But I personally don't see a shift in income wise, regardless of what books I've put out, because I have built, me personally, have built a following and a brand of people that trust what I do. And so I feel like authors have to find that community of people and build their brand in a way that there's a community of people who trust what they do. So like we said earlier, you may not necessarily like this book that I put out, but you support me regardless. I have people that they're like, girl, I don't even read that, but I'm gonna buy it anyway because it's you. So I want to support you, but that's not necessarily my thing. So the money comes from the effort, I believe, because if you put the effort into your brand, into your craft, do the work to build that community of people who support you and follow you. So in a sense, there is more money in urban because it's so much easier to fold yourself into that market because the audience is so much bigger. But regardless, you can be in urban and not make a dollar and then go in romance and kill pending your effort and your craft. So it just, I think that's one of those things that comes down to the individual and what you're willing to do in order to make the money, but it all comes from the effort.
Okay, y'all. Oh, they talking about the clicks. Any final words, Miss Monique?
I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Monique. Did you find yourself in clicks? Because even in, and I'm sure Lashira could probably attest to this, in what we do, people claim it's clicks when we
oh girl, yeah,
have certain authors that they might say, oh, you have the same authors all the time, or
Lord have mercy,
you only promote so and so and so and so. I'm just gonna say this because I don't say this stuff a lot. I'm not asking you a question, Monique, but I'm gonna let you answer. I'm old school, and at 53, that's not old. But we were having this conversation the other day. There's things that, and I got a millennial in my house, that they just weren't taught in school. So when you inbox somebody or you email somebody, there's no greeting. My line, Shira?
Correct.
There's no greeting. It's just
not my book.
Yeah. Hey, so and so and so and so and so and so. And I feel like, well,
and can I add the ending? I believe, I cuss and drink Moscato, but I believe in discernment in the Lord. And it's just certain people, I don't think it's a click, I think it's discernment and wisdom. And there's certain people I know, if I have my event, I'm going to invite you because I know everybody mesh well together. If I know you're going to talk about different people, if you're going to have all these opposing opinions and you're going to do a lot of stuff, oh girl, I ain't got time for that. I don't have time for that. And it's not that those are not the reasons y'all don't have been invited to my event for other authors. Just certain people over the years I've interviewed. I went to their house. They came to my baby's parties. These are people who I trust. I mean, let's be honest. And just like in any circle, I don't think it's a clique. I think it's just a trust factor, just like Casey said. So, those are people you trust, and you don't want to have an event or function and you're going to have all this discord. Because when you have an event and I have events over a couple of days, girl, ain't nobody got time for all that foolishness. So I need for everything to flow nicely so everybody can play pretty in the sandbox. So, just like in any given profession, when you go to work, there's a group of people that you just jive with. I don't care what profession you are. And so those people you jive with, you're going to rock hard for. I'm just sorry. So, I'm nice enough. I'll share everybody's release day. If I like it. And some folks I don't share release day, and you can just pick on what it is on that. It just is what it is. If I see you, if I know it, I'm gonna share your release day. But it is what it is on that. And we all have I know everybody out there, just period. We all have our folks. It's just our folks. And if you one of my people, girl, I'm gonna rock hard for you for a mug. Bailey tell you come to my book club event and you will sell a lot of books just coming to a book club party. I'll be like, when Bailey come, we all gonna buy all her books. That's just how it is. And they know that. It may be 20 people, but she left out there with not one book and books we ordered on the way. Bailey come, y'all buy every one of her books. I got on ebook. It don't make no difference. Buy that print book when she come in the door. I rock her.
Yeah, she does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Adrian, I didn't let Monique answer my question. I'm sorry.
Monique happy too about
She's
that.
like, yeah.
Whatever works, right? So Adrian, there's LB again. And I have another one I'm going to drop, and we truly are going to wrap up. I love this, and that the conversation can just continue on. I feel like we could be here all day. We're not going to take up too much more of you all's time. So Adrian, how important is professionalism when supporting authors? Is there such a thing as too messy for them? Oh, Love missed this conversation. We kind of talked about this earlier.
She did, but I just say, LB, one of the things we talked about earlier, just about and constructive criticism, and I think it's Monique's words, right? Constructive criticism is one thing, just being outright nasty is another. So I would say less so professionalism and more so just courtesy, right? And politeness. I think, Josh, to your point earlier about social media, everybody be thugging behind the keyboard, right? And sometimes we lapse into that as well as readers, where it's not thugging per se, but we're using words and we're talking in tone that we would never use if we were in front of the author at an event. And even if we were expressing how we felt about the book, we would never be that level of nasty. But it's easy when you're just on your phone or on your tablet, just fire stuff off, and the characters got you all in your feelings. You got to get it off your chest, and you angry, and you want the author to know, they've upset you. So I do hope that we get to a point where people begin taking that step back and moderating themselves. And again, constructive criticism and feedback is one thing, but in effect, cursing someone out is a very different matter entirely. And this community, I think, should be mature enough and have enough life experience under their belt to understand if you would not behave that way in that person's face, don't behave that way in a review just because it's you and your phone or you and your tablet.
But you know what I noticed, that, and I'm nosy. So if you write a bad review, then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at how you wrote other reviews, and sometimes it's all the urban or it's all the romance that you have a problem with, and then I'll look and say, oh, you like this genre, then why are you even reading this genre?
Folks be working out their personal issues in the reviews.
Yes, and you're giving all negative reviews to, and this is I'm just using this example, to all the urban or all the Christian romance. Then why on God's green earth are you even reading it?
That insanity thing.
When you are an avid paranormal or fantasy, that's where your heart lies. That's what you enjoy. That's what makes your heart smile when you're reading. Stick to that.
Exactly.
Being mean. To me, it's just mean-spirited. It's just mean-spirited.
Yeah, one of the things that Amazon has done recently, I don't know how recent it was, but now you could just leave a rating without a review.
My God.
And you're talking about how much we like that. Like, it's okay. Just give your rating. Like, especially if you just gone and put your stars on it. We
also like they're doing like Goodreads basically does.
Mm-hmm. You can just leave a rating now, as opposed to writing out a whole review. Because you remember at one point Amazon would make you write so many characters before they would even post a review. So I may just want to say it was a good book, but then Amazon made me add 17 more words to it which then
Mm,
kind of could make you go off the rails a little
got it.
bit, right? Because you don't know what else to say. Because you're just making it up as you go along. Because that's not what I wanted to say. I just wanted to say it was a good book. But now they have it where just leave a rating. And so if you really feel like you're not um good at, maybe articulating what you're trying to say, then just leave a rating. It's okay. Because again, like we rounded out to the beginning of the conversation, as an author, when I put out my work, I'm satisfied with what I put out. And so I don't really need your input on a finished work. Like I can't go back and change Sam's name to Craig. Like it's over. It's published. It's done, ma'am. And I appreciate that you like Craig more than Sam. However, the book is published. So if you can't, if that's the critique or whatever, then just leave your stars. And we're cool with that too. It works.
Yeah. Lashira, any parting words for, as Mimi said, the congregation? She said uh what she something she said.
She said you was about to give the
The
benediction.
devotion.
Oh, I was
The,
just thank
the
you for the
benediction.
opportunity to be on here with some of my favorite people in publishing, as I said earlier. So I'm just excited, honey. I'm ready, honey. I got my ticket packed. I got my room book, honey. I'm ready for any love. That's all I gotta say.
We going outside, y'all, after 2 years.
Yes.
We going outside.
I know. That's gonna be so nice.
Yeah. Adrian, any last words from you?
No, just ladies, I've had the privilege of, like I said, reading from the three authors that participated. So this is truly a privilege for me. And I thank you for sharing your talent. I thank you for powering past whatever obstacles you faced in the beginning, bad reviews, whatever it was, because you and some of the other authors that have chimed in and I've read their stuff too, y'all are amazing. To get words onto the page over and over and over again. Y'all are amazing. And I take my hat off to you. I give you your flowers and I thank you for sharing your gift with us because you don't have to. These could be stories that you kept to yourself. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I look forward to continuing to support you all in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KC.
I mean, I'm just happy to be here, and this is my year to be outside. I am the most sociable recluse you'll ever meet. So I had anxiety through the roof with Indie Love as my first event. But I'm so excited to be there because I'm gonna be there fangirling too. Like to be in the room with these people. I've been on calls with a lot of them, and even FaceTimes and stuff like that. But to be in the room. So I may be throwing some stuff and attacking some authors too. I'm super excited. I'm geeked about that because I am a reader. I don't read as much as I want to, but I'm a reader too. And I'm so excited. So I appreciate you for the opportunity. I appreciate being here on this panel today with these lovely ladies. And, I've gained a lot. So I appreciate you and thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Bailey West.
Thank you, Indie Love, for the opportunity to participate on this panel. I always tease Joss because she is one of the people who encouraged me to actually be Bailey West, to actually step outside and realize that I had a gift to do what I do. And so I always give her flowers for that. But I just thank you for the opportunity to come and have these critical conversations, right? Like we talked about with reviews, a lot of times we as authors really will bite our tongues when it comes to talking about how reviews are received. And so to kind of hear that helps you to understand, how we operate and how we move, and being able to see all of the comments and everything. I just really appreciate the support. I love the readers. I love the authors in this community. And I'm just excited about the future of Black romance.
Awesome. I thank you, ladies, so much for being, when I slid in your inbox or your email and said, I'm going to do this again. Last year's was so enlightening, and I wanted to do it again from a different perspective because our community is constantly growing. I love to see it, I love to support it. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Yeah, everybody's on here. It's gonna be an Indie Love. I'm gonna say it again. We going outside. I don't care what's happening. They having Mardi. They had Mardi Gras. You ain't getting ready to shut Nola down this year. We going outside. We gonna have a great time. Um, I'm sorry, there are no more tickets on the website. Um, if you show up at the door, we're not gonna turn you away. You may take your little $10 and say, sorry, you can't have a shirt and a bag, but come on in, get you some love and enjoy yourself because it is a true, like I said, a family reunion. And I'm looking forward to seeing every body there and having a great time. So again, thank you for those who have hung out with us for the past 1 hour and 54 minutes. I appreciate you. And it will be uploaded on the website, not the website, yeah, on my YouTube. You barely got me on there too. So I give her all of the props for pushing me. You know, her and the vice president. You know, somebody said they didn't want the vice president to shut it down because he will try. But I appreciate all the love, and I thank you all for being here today. You all ladies, hold on, and I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. Everyone have a great Saturday afternoon. What's left of it, enjoy yourself, and be kind to our independent Black authors.